Today is August 9th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It is a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today, out of the Big Book, we are going to begin the third chapter of the book, More About Alcoholism, by reading the first half of page 30. And out of the 12 and 12, we're going to continue. Lord, I'm stumbling over this intro. We're going to continue step 5 by reading page 56, and then we are going to read today's daily reflections in 24 hours a day. I hope y'all are doing well today. We have been given a brand new set of 24 hours, and that is that is always a good thing. You know, I was just thinking about this a second ago. No matter what happened yesterday, what mistakes we might have made, and that little chatter, you know, that self-talk, that negative stuff, right? That we might be telling ourselves, hey, it's a clean slate today. Clean slate. We woke up, and we must be here for a reason because we woke up. And the stuff that might have happened yesterday, we can't change it. But to put a positive spin on it, maybe we learn some powerful lessons that we can carry into today. So let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. Out of the Big Book, we'll be reading Chapter 3, More About Alcoholism, the first 2 paragraphs. Most of us have been unwilling to admit that we were real alcoholics. No person likes to think that he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove that we could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people, or presently may be, has to be smashed. Moving on over the 12 and 12, we're on step 5. Admit it to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. If you recall from yesterday, certain distressing or humiliating memories, we tell ourselves, they ought not to be shared with anyone. These will remain our secret, not a soul must ever know. We hope that they'll go to the grave with us. So, keeping everything a secret, holding that in. I heard this line one time, you're as sick as your secrets. That's a sobering thought right there. But, so this is what page 56 has to say about that. Yet if AA's experience means anything at all, this is not only unwise, but is actually a perilous resolve. Few muddled attitudes have caused us more trouble than holding back on step 5. Some people are unable to stay sober at all. Others will relapse periodically until they really clean house. Even AA old-timers sober for years often pay dearly for skipping this step. They tell how they tried to carry the load alone, how much they suffered of irritability, anxiety, remorse, and depression, and how, unconsciously seeking relief, they would sometimes accuse even their best friends of the very character defects they themselves were trying to conceal. They always discovered that relief never came by confessing the sins of other people. Everybody has to confess his own. This practice of admitting one's defects to another person is, of course, very ancient. It has been validated in every century, and it characterizes the lives of all spiritually centered and truly religious people. But today, religion is by no means the sole advocate of this saving principle. Psychiatrists and psychologists point out the deep need every human being has for practical insight and knowledge of his own personality flaws, and for a discussion of them with an understanding and trustworthy person. So far as alcoholics are concerned, AA would go even further. Most of us would declare that without a fearless admission of our defects to another human being, we could not stay sober. It seems plain that the grace of God will not enter to expel our destructive obsessions until we are willing to try this. Daily Reflection, August 9th. Of all persons we had harmed, and became willing to make amends to them all. 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 77. One of the key words in the 8th step is the word all. I am not free to select a few names for the list and disregard the others. It is a list of all persons that I had harmed. I can see immediately that this step entails forgiveness because if I am not willing to forgive someone, there's little chance that I will place his name on the list. Before I place the first name on the list, I said a little prayer. I forgive anyone and everyone who has ever harmed me at any time and under any circumstances. It is well for me to contemplate a small but very significant 2-letter word every time the Lord's Prayer is said. The word is as. I ask, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. In this case, as means in the same manner. I'm asking to be forgiven in the same manner that I forgive others. As I say this portion of the prayer, if I'm harboring hatred or resentment, I'm inviting more resentment when I should be calling on the spirit of forgiveness. 24 hours a day, August 9th. AA Thought for the Day. We have an allergy to alcohol. The action of alcohol on chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of the allergy. We allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. We cannot be reconciled to a life without alcohol unless we can experience an entire psychic change. Once a psychic change has occurred, we who seem doomed, we who had had so many problems that we despaired of ever solving them, find ourselves able to control our desire for alcohol. Have I had a psychic change? Meditation for the day. Ask God in daily prayer to give you the strength to change. When you ask God to change you, you must at the same time fully trust Him. If you do not fully trust Him, God may answer your prayer as a rescuer does that of a drowning person who is putting up too much of a struggle. The rescuer must first render the person still more helpless until he or she is wholly at the rescuer's mercy. Just so we must be wholly at God's mercy before we can be rescued. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may be daily willing to be changed. I pray that I may put myself wholly at the mercy of God. Okay, my friends. Wow, some great reading today. Out of the 12 and 12, golly, the 5th step is hard. It is hard. But at the same time, if you can find the right person, it says right here in the bottom of page 56, psychiatrists and psychologists point out the deep need for every human being has for the practical insight and knowledge of his own personality flaws. Okay, so that's right there. There's part of step 4, finding those personality defects. What's our part in this situation? And then for a discussion of them, here it is what I wanted to get to, with an understanding and trustworthy person. I've said this many, many times. I feel like the promises started coming true for me when I started to really feel it right around steps 4 and 5, particularly step 5, because I had written everything down and I was nervous to do my 5th step. And I remember driving to my trusted friend's place. Actually, it was a mutual place we met. And I was scared. I said, man, if I say these things, will he look at me differently? Will this damage my relationship with him? And I couldn't have been more wrong. But again, going back to this, I had to find somebody that I related to, that was understanding and trustworthy. So I had to really decide who I wanted to tell this stuff to. And I'm grateful I did. So anyways, I do my 5th step. And I specifically remember him listening very intently, nodding and everything. I don't remember him condemning me at all. You know what he did? He thanked me for me telling my story and for trusting him. And he told me some of his struggles. And he told me what he did. And we prayed together. He helped me clarify some things, He looked at some things, he said, that's not necessarily this, it's more of a resentment, or that's not necessarily anger you've got here, this is just downright selfishness, or whatever it was. But that different point of view on things that I was wrestling with helped me tremendously. And he said it in a way that was helpful, not harmful. And then again, he thanked me for trusting him. We prayed together. And by the time I left, I remember driving home, and I know this sounds cheesy as all get out, but it's the truth. I drove home, and the world truly looked differently. I started looking at the sunset, and I just remember the feeling I had. I was very aware of everything that was around me. I was thanking my higher power. And I realized for the first time in my entire life, I don't have to carry this stuff anymore. I'm free. I'm free. Just incredible the way these steps work, that they worked in my life. And I think even in that moment, I knew what I was. And maybe it was a spiritual experience, whatever you want to call it, but I knew that these steps are working in my life. And that I have nothing to hide, and I can look the world in the eye. And I finally started changing that self-talk from thinking, I'm not good enough, nobody will like me if I tell them this, or I'm wrestling with this. And you know what I found out? In that moment, in that day, is that I'm human, and that I'm no different than anybody else. But I have been telling that story to myself for so long. When I finally got all that junk out of my system, I finally felt free. Don't get me wrong, I prayed about these things, but I guess my inner dialogue was still just not right. And it took talking to another human being for me to finally realize that, man, I've been looking at this all wrong. And, it may not work for everybody, but it certainly worked for me. And it continues to, we continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, we promptly admit it. Sometimes I still have to talk to these trusted friends when I'm wrestling with something or whatever. And usually, out of love, they tell me exactly what I need to hear. The daily reflections too, talking about forgiveness. Oh man, if we don't forgive others, how can we be forgiven? If we don't love others, how can we love ourselves? And on the flip side of that, if we don't love ourselves, how can we love others? And oftentimes, I reflect, when I'm mean to others, I reflect that anger back at myself. When I show hatred, it's a reflection back to me. And our words, man, they are powerful. It's what we say to others really does carry a lot of weight. How we treat others really carries a lot of weight. So why not put a positive spin on that? If I show others kindness, if I show others grace and mercy and love and forgiveness, unconditional love, perhaps that'll be reflected on me as well. Maybe not. But that's their boundary. All I'm responsible for is me. And how I talk to myself, it's the same way. Because I'm a human being. No better and worse than anybody else. But anyway, that is something to think about right there. But I've rambled on enough, my friends. I better hop off here for today. But I hope you all have a great day. As always, I don't speak on behalf of AA or NA or Al-Anon or any other sector denomination. I'm just a guy in this lifeboat of recovery, just grateful to be sober today. And if we are given another set of 24 hours, my friends, I sincerely look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow.